Right now at 9, city officials announced details for the funeral for Corporal Ben Cooper, who was killed in the line of duty last week. Plus, an American journalist is killed while filming in Ukraine. And a powerful winter storm reminding New Englanders that the winter season is still here. You're watching the KOAM News at 9, and it starts right now. And thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Chris Warner. The Joplin Police Department has provided more details concerning the funeral for Corporal Ben Cooper. In the release, the city and police department said they wanted to express their deepest gratitude for the overwhelming amount of support from the community as we all mourn the loss of Corporal Cooper. Officials say if you're attending the public funeral service on Tuesday, you must enter through the checkpoint at the intersection of Newman Road and Duquesne. Officials say they encourage anyone in the community who wants to honor Corporal Cooper to attend the service. If members of the public would like to show support to the Cooper family or to law enforcement, you're encouraged to line Main Street from 3rd to 19th Street. The department says the procession will travel that route between 3 and 4 on Tuesday, and they ask that people avoid parking on Main Street during that time. A couple of other notes that the city wanted to provide. People should expect brief traffic delays in and around the city on Tuesday between 9 and 5. Additionally, Duquesne Road between Newman and Tallgrass Drive will be closed from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The department says details for Officer Jake Reed's service will be released in the coming days. U.S. documentary filmmaker Brent Renaud has died in Ukraine. The New York Times, citing Ukrainian officials, say Russian forces killed Renaud in Irpin on the outskirts of Kyiv Sunday. Ukrainian officials say another journalist was wounded in the attack. Journalist Anne-Marie Lipinski shared this photograph of Renaud, who has spent 20 years making documentaries. He won a Peabody Award and 2 Columbia DuPont Awards. His works include Dope, Sick Love and Off to War. Renaud was 50 years old. At least 35 people were killed after Russia launched an attack early Sunday on a part of Ukraine that has not seen major fighting since the war began. The strike could potentially be a signal to Western leaders who are providing military assistance to Ukraine. Fox News correspondent Trey Yanks has the latest on the crisis in Ukraine.
Dozens killed and injured Sunday after Russian cruise missiles strike a military base outside Lviv. The attack happened just a few miles from Ukraine's western border with Poland, in a part of the country that previously had not been targeted, and follows up on Russian threats to take out foreign military shipments coming into Ukraine. The facility had long been used to train Ukraine's military, often with instructors from the U.S. or NATO. Ukrainian officials say it emphasizes the urgent need for a no-fly zone.
That is why we keep asking NATO to close the sky, because to fight with an enemy who does not even enter Ukraine but launches a cruise missile, it is necessary to have a serious air defense system.
We're a small country to fight with Russia, with Belarus. What are you doing? It's not. We protect not only our country, we protect all Europe.
Intense fighting continues to rage near Kyiv, where Russian forces are ramping up their offensive to take the capital. Ukrainian police said on Sunday that a U.S. journalist died during the fighting. Documentary filmmaker Brent Renaud was reportedly killed in Irpin, which has been devastated by heavy Russian bombardment. His colleague, who made it out, describing the ordeal.
Crossed the checkpoint and they start shooting at us. So the driver turned around and they kept shooting. It's 2 of us. My friend is Brent Renaud, and he's been shot and left behind.
Renaud was a former contributor for the New York Times, but the paper says he was not on assignment in Ukraine. He was 50 years old. In Kyiv, Trey Yanks, Fox News.
White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on Sunday that NATO will respond if any of Russia's attacks cross borders and hit members of the alliance. Four-state weather today, man, it was a lot nicer than it has been the last few days. Nick Kelly joining us.
Yeah, thankfully we didn't have quite a cold start this morning, Chris, and we trended quite a bit milder for our highs this afternoon. 40 was where we started the morning out, upper 30s to near 40 degrees. And then topping out at 66, 7 above norm for this time of the year. We've had quiet skies all day long, so no complaints there. But I'm watching our next storm system in the upper levels, at least this upper level low. It's going to start to send cloud cover our way tomorrow morning. And later on down the line, our next chance for at least some scattered showers but not in the short term. We're still seeing temperatures in the lower to middle 50s right now at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. But again, I think we're quiet throughout the course of the night. Mostly clear skies, lows back into the mid 40s across much of the region, but the cloud cover really ramps up, and once we hit the afternoon, Chris, that's when our next chance for rain will start to sneak in. Still, we'll get highs close to 60 degrees in many spots. We'll see how much rain we'll get out of this system and if we have any other systems on the way coming up in a bit.
All right, Nick, thank you. After days of warmer weather, a potent late winter storm brought rain and several inches of snow across parts of the New York City tri-state on Saturday. Shanti Lands has more.
From salting the roads to restoring power, many across New Jersey either worked, stayed inside, or kept busy.
I had to run a few errands today and, got to take care of business.
The snowy roads in Saddle River are reminiscent of a winter wonderland, but earlier, a headache for drivers.
When we left the city, it was kind of messy.
Temperatures are now plunging to below freezing Saturday, just days after New York City reached a high of 75 degrees.
I was just in shorts the other day, playing basketball outside in the park. Now we gotta wear a jacket again, which is crazy.
These high schoolers are over it.
I'm cold.
You cold? And what about you? You don't even have a coat on. Where's your coat?
I'm cold. I'm cold, but I don't like this. It was like 75. Now it's cold. I can't even drive good because it's snowing.
Yeah. As some search for more clothes, PSE&G workers responded to downed wires on East Saddle River Road in Ridgewood. High winds and heavy rain knocked out power from fallen tree limbs.
Well, I thought spring had sprung, but obviously winter's still here.
Now we take this time now to honor one of our many four-state heroes. Eric Huron served in the Army from 1984 to 1996. His hometown, Yates Center. We're proud to recognize Eric Huron, tonight's four-state hero. And of course, if you've got a hero you'd like to nominate, or if you want to view the others, you can do that at any time at KOAMNewsNow.com. After the forecast, spring brings out day trippers, and the go-to places to be for allergy sufferers may be a no-go.
It's the cleaning lady.
It was nice that we kept things pretty dry and quiet to wrap up the weekend, but thanks to the strong wind out of the south that we've had throughout the day, temperatures just wasted no time soaring after we started out in the upper 30s to near 40 this morning. But looking back at the weekend as a whole, remember, we started out with another hurrah of wintry weather, light snow late Thursday into Friday, and that dropped us into the lower teens for Saturday morning. But once we got past the lower to middle 40s we saw the other day, look at our highs today, easily back into the mid 60s. We are going to stay a bit on the mild side, maybe a bit chillier for your Monday, but the main focus for Monday and Tuesday will be our next storm system in Doug's pattern. That will bring rain chances back into the picture. I see us dry, certainly back near 70 actually by Wednesday. Then another system in Doug's pattern. This will bring thunderstorm chances late on St. Patrick's Day and still poised to stick around as we get at least into Friday. So we'll time out all these systems as we run along here, but 7th and range line, we looked pretty good this evening, and it was nice to see the sun out before we hit 7:30 this time around. But look at the highs today. We all saw lower in the middle 60s all across the board. Right now, we're sitting at 51 in Fort Scott, 55 in Joplin, and across the entire Joplin metro area. And not much of a difference outside of the metro area. We saw these numbers really take off throughout the day because of the sustained at about 15 to 25 miles per hour. This breeze might have died off just a little bit, but it's still going to be kind of blustery as we go throughout the course of the night. But let me show you the wind gusts. We've had gusts at times push over 35 miles per hour. And fortunately for now, the gusts have pretty much subsided, but we're still getting some occasional gusts near, well, let's say 25 miles per hour, but nothing too alarming, nothing signifying any immediate storm systems on the way in. We're still looking quiet for the rest of the night. But here's at the surface our next frontal boundary. What do you consider it, the stationary front or the cold front working across Colorado? That's one part of the next storm system on the way in. Then there's this upper low coming out of Montana. That is the next system in play. That could give us some showers starting late tomorrow. But through the overnight, we're just going to keep things pretty quiet. We'll say mostly clear skies throughout the course of the night. And you can see how temperatures drop back mainly in the lower to middle 40s. Some of these Joplin bottoming out around 44. But mostly cloudy skies will really build in throughout the course of the morning. Despite that, that south wind will still be up there, pushing highs close to 60 in many spots. But if you had to twist my arm, I would say 44 in the morning, 55 by noon, highs near 59. I think we're dry for much of the day, but once we get into the late afternoon, that's when these two systems will bring in some scattered showers. Monday evening especially, going into Tuesday morning, then I think we'll dry out as we go throughout the rest of our Tuesday. But as far as rain with this system, it's not looking impressive, maybe no more than 1/4 of an inch, 3/10 of an inch. So not a big washout with this first storm system. Then once that passes out, we look pretty good. For Wednesday, we'll say mostly sunny, highs back in the lower 70s. Then this is the next storm system that'll give us some thunderstorms late on St. Patrick's Day, and then tapering off as we go through Friday morning. But as far as temperatures go, mainly on the mild side when all is said and done. 59 tomorrow, back near 60 on Tuesday, 71 Wednesday, 72 on St. Patrick's Day, so it's still mild for the holiday despite a few storms trying to sneak in late. Then we'll just get the rain out of here Friday and push highs back into the 60s for the weekend, Chris.
See, I was going to have you come over here so I could twist your arm. I was wondering what information I'd get out of you if I did that.
No, that would be for Thursday. If I'm not wearing green, you can twist my arm then.
I thought it was just a pinch. That seems pretty serious.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they changed it nowadays. I don't know.
You never know, Nick. Thank you so much. Coming up next, sustained loneliness could have an impact on your verbal memory skills.
Let us put
Spring brings out day trippers and the go-to places to be for allergy sufferers. It's more the not-to-go places. The Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America recently released its 2022 list of allergy capitals as the most challenging places to live. Some of the cities include Scranton, Pennsylvania, Wichita, McAllen, Texas, Richmond, Virginia, and San Antonio. Other baddies, Oklahoma City, Hartford, Buffalo, New Haven, Connecticut, and Albany in New York. The agency says more than 50 million Americans suffer from some type of allergy. Sustained loneliness, it may mean losing some of your verbal memory skills. Researchers from a university in Norway say one way loneliness affects health and well-being is through losing memory skills and cognitive recall in words over time. The scientists studied more than 1,500 people in Sweden, Germany, and Denmark, and not all showed memory decline issues the same way. How cultures deal with isolation could explain differences, according to the analysts. There were no connections between brain regions and loneliness in this research. A retired nurse who's also an artist is using discarded vaccine vials to create work she sees as a tribute to healthcare workers. Foster Gaines reports.
It's been very dark and very challenging, and yet I think we can find opportunities that come out of the darkness and the obstacles. It's like decorating a Christmas tree. My name is Laura England Weiss, and I am a public health nurse. I've helped with the vaccination effort, Boulder County Health. This is what I call the light of appreciation. There was a lot of darkness and a lot of sadness. I wanted to access the light somehow. I created this out of 271 Moderna vaccine vials. I decided to make this because I really did want to show appreciation for my fellow nurses. I think they like it a lot. You know, they don't get enough pats on the back, and so if I can even just be a part of saying thank you, you know, that feels pretty good. I got to see my grandchild for the first time after getting my vaccine, so back to normal. But, you know, I think we're recognizing now, too, more than ever before, life is very uncertain and we don't know what's next. Well, I'm glad you like it.
Oh, you did. It's wonderful.
So we all have that in common, and I like to think that we can all kind of come together and at least recognize that we're not all that different. We all want the same things.
Coming up, sales of a Nintendo product help make the Switch back into the lead sales position.
The Big Bang Theory.
Sales of a Nintendo product helped make the Switch back into the lead position in sales. Nintendo's Switch gaming system, which can move back and forth from a home console to a portable system, retook the top position as the U.S.'s best-selling gaming system in February. The Switch outsold Sony PlayStation 5 in both unit and dollar sales. Both games have swapped positions throughout the year. Nintendo may have benefited from the global chip shortage, which made other gaming devices less accessible. Therefore, the Switch became easier to find in stores. A Seattle-based beverage company adds products to keep pace with an expanding legalizing plant trade. Jones Soda, which makes high-energy and craft-type sodas, is weeding out the competition with weed-infused drinks. The line of cannabis sodas, syrups, and gummies are sprouting up under a new brand, Mary Jones. Now, Mary Jones, or Mary Jane, is a slang term for marijuana. The products roll out April 1st in California, and they're going to hit states where cannabis use is legal. A Jones Soda executive says the company wants to be a major name in cannabis. The company had revenues of just over $14 million. Higher fuel prices aren't just affecting people who want to fill up their tanks. It also means paying more to fly. Fox's Richard Giacovis has more from LaGuardia Airport in New York.
If you scored a deal on airfare these past few weeks, well, consider yourself lucky.
They increase every 10 minutes.
For the Rios family, well, their daughter got a cheap ticket to Orlando a few months back. But for mom and dad, they missed out.
I got my ticket for cheaper.
Yeah. And I got the same flight for double.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my husband's flight was 3 times.
Both domestic and international flight prices have been soaring in recent weeks as fuel prices skyrocket across the country.
The only way we're going to go from here is up when it comes to prices.
Managing editor for The Points Guy, Clint Henderson, says although airlines may not actually admit to upcharging for fuel through a surcharge, you can bet they'll make up for the higher priced gasoline somehow.
The last time this happened, though, the airlines got really creative. They started adding baggage fees. So there's ways that they can do this without saying it's directly correlated.
At LaGuardia Airport Saturday night, those who have to get to their destination know that ultimately they're going to have to just pay up.
I have family in Florida, so probably I will have to go and see them.
The Points Guy has some tips to save you a few bucks on airfare. First, if you have a trip planned at the end of the year, it's better to buy your plane ticket now rather than wait. And if you want to travel, try to avoid going at peak times, like spring break. And if you're one of those people who prefers to drive rather than fly, nowadays, it's best just to hop on board.
We're going to wrap up this half hour of the news at 9 with something you shouldn't do, except for just today.
At LongJohnSilverstock.
An annual offbeat salute to bad luck omens is happening today. This one's an interesting one. National Open an Umbrella Day indoors. Yeah. It takes a fun swipe at bad luck scenarios and superstitions, such as walking under a ladder, or a black cat crossing your path, or tipping a salt shaker over. I've done that many times. I didn't know that was bad luck. The idea there is to open an umbrella indoors and see what misfortune you befall if you dare. One theory says ancient Egyptians thought it offended the gods to open an umbrella in shade. So test it out. You'll likely have an umbrella with you anyway because, Nick said, rain's in the forecast, but don't poke anybody or you really will have bad luck. I honestly didn't know that tipping a salt shaker was bad luck. That's good to know. I'll have to be more cautious. And I was always told the thing about opening an umbrella indoors is you'd get struck by lightning.
I heard it was just bad luck, period.
See, okay, Nick's heard it's just bad luck, period, but I remember being told as a kid that if you opened it indoors, you would get struck by lightning. And parents tell you many things. Well, we got many things to tell you because we've got 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. Up first, 2 police officers are injured in Phoenix following an ambush attack. Plus, a 2-year-old child in Texas falls into a backyard fire pit.
It's spring again.
Welcome back. 2 police officers are injured in Phoenix following an ambush attack. It happened around 1:30 this morning. A car that police tried to pull over sped away. Officers saw the car again, and while again trying to pull it over, a man standing along the side of the road shot at them. One officer was shot in the wrist and is in stable condition. A second officer was hit by flying glass and had minor injuries. The driver of the car tried to run, but police took him into custody. They're still looking for the shooter. A 2-year-old child in Texas fell into a backyard fire pit yesterday afternoon. Now, the young boy was flown to a burn unit in Dallas. His specific injuries are unknown at this time. How the 2-year-old fell into the fire pit also remains under investigation. Authorities also said while they weren't sure what the fire pit was being used for at the time, recreational fire pits are allowed. The iconic Museum of Modern Art in New York was evacuated Saturday after police in the area were responding to calls of a stabbing occurring inside the museum. According to the New York Police Department, 2 museum employees were stabbed in the back after a man was denied entry into the museum because his membership had expired. The 2 victims were taken to a nearby hospital and are expected to survive. At this time, the suspect is still on the run. The museum was also closed today as the investigation continues. The UN now says nearly 2.6 million Ukrainians have fled their country, and the humanitarian crisis grows worse by the day. Some 1.5 million of the refugees have escaped to neighboring Poland, and now the mayors of Poland's 2 largest cities, Warsaw and Krakow, say they can no longer handle the influx. They're asking other European nations for help. Fox News correspondent Alex Hogan is in Poland with details.
More than 1.6 million people have fled Ukraine, arriving in Poland. And while the country says it will welcome any refugee in need, cities are already overwhelmed, with families often sleeping on the floors of bus and train stations in various towns and cities. We visited a site in Jayhawks. It was a makeshift refugee center with air mattresses lined on the floor. It was one of the cleanest facilities we had seen, although that could change soon as thousands of people pour into the country every day. Poland says it needs more assistance from other countries accommodating their neighbors to the east. Train stations and bus stations in Poland's cities are overworked, with families sleeping there, and many are still stunned over how this is their new reality.
At one point, we thought Russians were our brothers. But now we see that our real brothers are the Polish and the German.
The crisis has inspired volunteers from all around the world. Here in Jayhawks, many volunteers live in the city, but they spend their weekends helping clean and cook and support those families who have arrived from Ukraine. Many don't speak the same language, but the kindness and the compassion translate something inspirational to people not only here, but watching around the world. In Jayhawks, Poland, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
Lawmakers are calling on the Biden administration to take stronger action to help Americans stuck in Russia, including a basketball star and 2 Marine veterans. Fox News correspondent Christina Coleman has the latest on that story.
This week, Republican Congressman Burgess Owens and Byron Donald sent President Biden and the State Department a letter expressing grave concern that the Russians could use WNBA star Brittany Griner and other Americans detained in their country as leverage.
I've not been the biggest fan of this version of the State Department. We can look back and see the thousands of Americans who were left in Afghanistan to see that, in my view, I don't think they pull every lever that needs to be pulled. But this is also a very different environment.
The Biden administration needs to do more to try to raise these issues with Putin and the Russian government and get them released.
Former U.S. Marines Trevor Reed and Paul Whelan have been jailed in Russia for what their families and U.S. lawmakers call politically motivated, trumped-up charges. And WNBA star Brittany Griner was detained last month over allegations that she had cannabis oil in her luggage at a Russian airport.
Our biggest concern is that with everything that's going on, that Brittany will be just another casualty of this process and not be forgotten. Just think about this. It was Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. It would be headlines. People thinking about how can we get her back.
I think we've gotten a taste of what Vladimir Putin is like with his cruel and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine and targeting innocent civilians. So he doesn't really care anything about the people involved or their families.
Democratic Congressman Colin Allred says he is working with the State Department to try and get Brittany Griner home.
She was detained on the 17th. That the Moscow embassy has requested consular access to her the same way they would for any American who's been detained or incarcerated abroad. And that has not been granted now for over 3 weeks. And so that's extremely unusual and extremely concerning.
Very concerning to her family and friends. Now, due to privacy considerations, the State Department is not giving specifics on Griner's situation, but they do say that they provide every possible assistance to Americans detained on foreign soil, including in Russia. Christina Coleman, Fox News.
Later, 12 ballistic missiles were launched from Iran into Iraq Sunday, nearly hitting an unmanned U.S. consulate headquarters.
No one.
Just imagine to start this weekend out, we had some light snow to deal with, and temperatures certainly made it feel like winter, but we really turned things around as we went throughout the rest of this weekend. We went from lower to middle teens rather, for Saturday morning, back into the 40s yesterday, holding in the upper 30s to near 40 overnight, and then thankfully right back into the mid 60s this afternoon. And we are still going to see mainly a mild week ahead of us, but with some bumps in the road. In the meantime, they're looking good from 7th to range line. 55 a drop with a south wind at 14, but this is one big reason why we warmed up so fast today. The humidity's been rather dry at 29%. That allowed everybody to go into the mid 60s, but now after sunset, we have seen the numbers drop off, but still not too terrible. 50 to 55 degrees across much of the region. You can see some 40s popping up the closer you get to Springfield and Table Rock Lake. But this is the other big reason why we weren't. 10 years I've been on the air, Chris. I've never dropped the remote like that.
Hey, but at least it was an easy drop. It wasn't
Yeah.
a hard toss.
First time for everything. Where was I? Oh, the wind. This was another big reason why we weren't up so fast throughout the course of the day. Sustained south wind at 15 to 25, but that's not even taking into account the gusts that we've had. Let's look at these numbers. We've had gusts at times push up to, if not over, 35 miles per hour. Fortunately, for the most part, the gusts have died down, but it's still going to be kind of a blustery night, but it's not signifying anything threatening on the way for tonight. We're still looking at pretty much clear skies, what we've seen all day long. But at the surface, we've got our next frontal system that'll get ready to head on in as we go into tomorrow. And then when you look upstairs at the jet stream level, there's our next upper level wave coming out of the northern Rockies. Both of those features working together, that's going to really up the cloud cover throughout tomorrow morning and then bring some rain chances before we wrap up the day. Here's how we look for the rest of the night. Generally mostly clear, but that south wind means we won't get too cold, but still, let's say, lower to middle 40s. It won't be until after 8 or 9 o'clock that we'll see the cloud cover really ramp up as those two systems start to come our way. But I think we're dry for much of the day until we get into the late afternoon. That's when we'll see at least some scattered showers try to pop up. We are going to warm up some after we start near 44 in the morning, but 55 by noon. A little cooler tomorrow, but upper 50s to near 60 degrees. Let's say drop it tops out at 59. I think the best chance for any scattered showers with this first system ramps up a bit for Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then everything's out of here by the time we go into Tuesday afternoon. But not much expected in the way of accumulating rainfall, maybe a quarter of an inch on the average for those that can see the rain. So not a big washout with this first system on the way in. Looking good for Wednesday. Back on the warmer side of the jet, mostly sunny with highs back in the lower 70s. And then there's this system that's going to come at us Thursday into Friday. I think any wintry weather with that system stays to the north. But we are going to have a shot for thunderstorms late on St. Patrick's Day and into Friday morning, well, along with that drop in temperatures. Well, it's 59 tomorrow. Let's go 60 on Tuesday, lower 70s for Wednesday and Thursday, 56 on Thursday. But throughout next weekend and even into early next week, Chris, we're going to stay quite mild with highs in the middle to upper 60s. And if we stick with Doug's pattern after we kick off spring on Sunday, we'll watch for another storm system with rain and storm chances mainly on Monday and Tuesday.
Spring's starting to come in around the area, and I'm liking this forecast a lot.
Yeah, for those that are not a fan of spring storms, I don't see anything on that Monday or Tuesday being severe, but like all the systems we've seen, it's something we'll watch closely.
Of course, you never know. It can certainly change in a minute. Nick, thank you so much. Coming up in sports, Pittsburg State and Missouri Southern open up conference play today. The Lions aim to extend their 6-game winning streak against Central Missouri. Danny Terzer's got the highlights and more next.
Last Man Standing.
This is the Toyota Sunday Night Sports Feed. Pitt State softball is 14-7 heading into conference play. It's the Gorillas' best record since the 2017 season. Pitt State hosts a pair of games against Lincoln to open up their MIAA schedule. In Game 1, Pitt trailing by 1 in the third. Sophia Driver ties the game at 6 with the solo shot to right. A few batters later, Kiana Pellegrino blasts another home run. Gorillas up 7-6. They stay hot next inning. Kilo Griffith homers to center. Same inning, Pellegrino back up to bat with the bases loaded. Just shy of the grand slam. It's good for a bases clearing triple though. Gorillas keep pouring it on. Paxton Hayes gets her 7th homer of the year. This one, a 3-run jack. Pitt State rolls by Lincoln in Game 1, 15-7. In Game 2, the Lions get off to a hot start, scoring 4 runs in the first inning. Pitt State goes on to sweep Lincoln, taking Game 2 10-1. Paxton Hayes goes 3 for 3 with a 3-run home run. Across the way, Pitt State baseball hosts Northwest. The Gorillas aim to clinch the series today. Jordan Maxson gets the Gorillas going, 2-run home run to left. That's his first of 3 home runs in the game. More from him later. Third inning, Pitt State trailing now. Caden Fowler hits a solo shot to center. Same inning, Gorillas start rolling. Mason Hartman gets a piece. That's an RBI single. Pitt State claims the lead, but they're not done there. Maxson back up later in the third. He singles to left. He goes 4 for 5 with 3 homers and 7 RBI. Then Caleb Carr gets it through. 2 score off the base hit. The Gorillas put up 11 runs in the third to go up 13-6. Pitt State goes on to win it 21-11. The Missouri Southern Lions are riding a 6-game win streak into their first conference matchup of the year. The Lions are at home taking on the UCM Jennies today. In Game 1, UCM up 2-0. Kara Amos gets a hit up the right field line. Ashland Williams, coming from second, scores the Lions' first run of the day. Then Tori Frazier brings Amos home with a base knock. Lions tie it at 2. Same score in the 5th. This play had to make the highlights. Yasmin Vargas makes the diving catch. Bottom half, Vargas comes up big at the plate, gets a hit down the line. Frazier scores for the Lions' first lead of the day. Adding to it here, Leighton Withers with an RBI single. Vargas comes home. Missouri Southern battles to a Game 1 victory, 4-2. In Game 2, UCM snaps Southern's 7-game win streak. The Jennies take this one 6-3 to split the doubleheader. Yasmin Vargas goes 2 for 3 with 2 RBI for the Lions. Southern baseball is in the middle of a road series with Central Oklahoma. The Lions shut out the Broncos today 7-0. Logan Van Way pitches 7 innings, giving up just 1 hit and striking out 11. Tommy Stevenson blasts 2 home runs. He leads Division II with 12 this season. Ryan Doran and Drew Davis also hit home runs. Southern clinches the series, and Game 3 is set for Monday at 1 p.m. Pittsburg State hosted the Division II Indoor National Championships on Friday and Saturday. The men took 3rd place as a team, and the women tied for 5th. PSU senior Trace Mosby gave the Gorillas an early lift on the final day of competition. Mosby placed in the top 5 in 4 of the 5 pentathlon events, including a first-place finish in the 800-meter run. She scored 4,098 points, earning herself a national runner-up finish, all the while battling through an injury.
It was incredible. I came in pretty nervous and scared, not knowing what would happen, if we could even get a hurdle race, a high jump, all of those events in, but I went above my expectations, so I'm just blessed that it held through, and prayed a whole lot, and my family prayed, hey! And so it went better than I could have asked for, and I'm just so blessed that I continue to do it, because it's hard fighting through fear.
It's Selection Sunday for the Division I men's basketball tournament. The Kansas Jayhawks earn an automatic bid into the tournament after beating Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship on Saturday. Kansas will play the winner of Texas Southern and Texas A&M CC. The Jayhawks' first-round game is set for this Thursday in Fort Worth, Texas. The Razorbacks have claimed a 4 seed. Arkansas will play Vermont on Thursday in Buffalo, New York. Some football news, big news here. Tom Brady has announced he is coming out of retirement and will return to the Buccaneers for his 23rd NFL season. His retirement was short-lived, just 40 days to be exact. Brady took to Twitter this evening to share the news. He said he realized his place is still on the field, adding that he has unfinished business in Tampa. That's a look at sports. We're back after this.
12 ballistic missiles were launched from Iran into Iraq Sunday, nearly hitting an unmanned U.S. consulate headquarters. Officials say the consulate was not the intended target. No injuries were reported in the attack, but the move marks a significant escalation between the U.S. and Iran. Fox News correspondent Alexandria Hoff has the latest from Washington.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard has taken credit for the early morning attack that sent a dozen ballistic missiles into Iraq's northern city of Erbil. The missiles were fired towards the large U.S. consulate building there. A U.S. official tells Fox News that the missiles did not make contact and no Americans were injured. Iranian media reports that the Revolutionary Guard was targeting what they called a, quote, strategic center of conspiracy for Israel, and that the attack was retaliation for an Israeli strike in Syria last week that they say killed 2 Guard members. The last time missiles were fired from inside Iran toward a U.S. site in Iraq was in January of 2020. The latest attack follows a pause in talks to revive the Iran nuclear deal. The European Union's foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell tweeted that this pause is due to external factors. Now, on Friday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov demanded a guarantee that U.S. sanctions will not impact Moscow's relationship with Iran. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman shared this on Fox News Sunday.
We would like all of the parties, including Russia, which has indicated it's got some concerns, to bring this to a close. You know, we are very concerned about what Iran is doing, but imagine these Iranians with a nuclear weapon. We need to get that off the table so we can address their malign behavior in the Middle East.
According to the New York Times, a previous holdup in talks involved a request for Washington to lift sanctions against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Even if those sanctions remained, others would likely be lifted under a renewed agreement.
Can you imagine you actually lifting sanctions on someone who is targeting you? I cannot understand what is the reasoning behind the wish of the new administration to run to this deal.
Republicans fear that the Biden administration loosening sanctions will only allow Iran to build up its nuclear program. In Washington, Alexandria Hoff, Fox News.
We'll be right back. A stand-up paddleboard competition kicked off on Europe's largest underground lake. 60 paddleboarders hit the waters of St. Leonard in Switzerland this weekend to take part in a nearly 1,000-foot-long underground lake course as part of the 7-stage Alpine Lakes Tour. Nicknamed the Bat Race, since it takes place in a cave, the darkness adds another level of difficulty to the sport. Speaking of caves, just spent some time at Fantastic Caverns in Springfield. So if you haven't had an opportunity to visit your local cave, Missouri's got plenty, and you should certainly take an opportunity to do that. Though, unfortunately, there's no paddleboarding taking place in Fantastic Caverns. At least they didn't let us do that. That's going to be our time for this fine evening. We're going to do this all again next weekend. Of course, you'll see Jordan Avi tomorrow night at 9 and the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 at 7 a.m. Thank you so much for making us part of your night.